Ladies and gentlemen, Concord 2 has officially arrived in the form of a game called Heart Electric. Sadly, because I've had my eyes on this for a few months now, maybe up to 6 months. I missed out on a previous playtest they did in 2024 and decided to take part in the most recent one, which was yesterday. However, it just is Concord 2. It's not great. Bad performance aside, which is somewhat excusable because it is a playtest and primarily that's what tests are used for, the game is just incredibly uninspired. It's very slow. Character design and art style are very clearly trying to cater towards a certain audience, which is very small but very vocal. To avoid any controversies, I'll leave it at that. You can make of that what you will. The game has horrible networking. Hit detection is more often than not your shots will not be detected, and it's a team shooter. It's a team hero based shooter. How new, how inspiring, how how unique. It's just the same game that everybody else has already made to chase a trend rather than starting something fresh. The sad reality here that I think these devs need to hear and probably have already heard but need to hear over and over again until it's drilled into their heads is that they haven't created anything new here. They've hopped onto a trend that is ultimately dying. Everybody is fed up of these types of games already, and if your game isn't the best of the bunch and isn't free to play, it's not going to make it in this market. You've entered the most saturated market in gaming right now as an indie team that seemingly has not released a single game before this. You're trying to push a new IP into a world where your direct competitors have hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing budget alone. Like, you are not going to be able to compete. You want a slice of this pie? You won't even get a slither. This game is going to die on release, and it's a shame because I wanted to like this. I have it on my wish list. I've had it wishlisted for months. I've been keeping up to date with their socials, but yeah, I spent 30 minutes on it and couldn't bear it any longer. Primarily because my PC couldn't really run the game, and my PC isn't an entry-level machine. I have a 12 gigabyte GPU. I have 32 gig of RAM, which is more than enough, and my CPU is a little bit higher than average. My PC in total will probably cost somewhere in the region of 1,100 to 1,300 GBP, which is like 1,400 US dollars. So it's not a cheap gaming PC. It is a middle-range PC that can run most new and upcoming games in medium settings. This game, I was getting 40 FPS on the lowest settings available. That alone, big problem. And the graphics aren't like the highest fidelity thing you've ever seen. In fact, the graphics, the art style is very cartoony, is very, not low poly, but just low detail, and therefore the objects should be lower poly than, something like a Cyberpunk, for example. However, I see LODs, which is level of detail, loading in on objects when I'm taking 2 steps forward and backwards, as if this game is really trying to decrease the load on my machine really quickly, because the models are incredibly high poly or something. Yeah, I noticed, as somebody who's made games in the past, I noticed some pop-in of objects happening quite often, and they're using a technique called crossfading on their objects to kind of blend the two together. The easiest way to explain this is objects have levels of detail, usually have LOD 1, 2, and 3. And as the number gets higher, level of detail 3, the objects becomes less detailed, and textures might get to a lower resolution. Your poly count might go from 10,000 to 2,000 or something like that, as the object gets further away. And generally you can't notice these things because as you get further away, the detail lessens. However, this game was decreasing the LOD when I take a couple steps back, and it was very, very obvious it was doing this, to the point where the whole game does look a bit like, you know, potato-y in areas, for lack of better explanation, and yet still performs really bad. I can only assume that maybe their lighting isn't baked currently or something, and it's all dynamic, and the map is pretty big. Almost too big, because like I said, the game plays slow. And a primary reason is not just the movement speed being slow and the sprint speed being slow, but the fact that you don't really encounter any enemies too often. I'm having gunfights maybe every 30 to 45 seconds, which just means it's kind of boring. It's a walking simulator for 50% of the game, and that's not fun. So something has to change, or scrap it and actually do something unique. You clearly have a talented development studio. You clearly have a team of people that are, you know, capable of making a game. Go and make something that people haven't done before, or go and do something which people have been begging for because other studios have seemingly abandoned an IP or something, for example. My video here isn't to take away from the knowledge, the talent, the skill, and the time that these devs have put in. But it is going to take away from what they've created, which is nothing new, nothing brilliant. Go and create something brilliant with the knowledge you have, please. And after, you know, a bit of looking around on their Steam community, on Reddit, in the comments section of articles that they've had creating a bit of, you know, a hype for the game and awareness, it seems like my thoughts and opinions are very much echoed throughout all these different platforms. You can go to their Steam community and you'll see multiple comments saying things like, Concord looks slightly better than Concord, but will it last longer than 2 weeks? A team hero-based shooter? Are you tone deaf? Lag makes the game impossible. Multiple games, same issue for everyone that I played. Heroes are worthless and takes 10 minutes to find a match. Mechanics are ridiculously unbalanced. Like, you know, so yeah, people, you know, there's a lot of harsh feedback around this game. And then the final nail in the coffin for this, for me, is that their Steam page says in-app purchases, which means they're thinking about going the live service route for this. You know, if you're going to plan to go early access and live service, you're just going to kill yourselves off. You're just going to die after a couple of months. Like, this needs to stop. Massive publishers are already backing out of the live service model, and we are starting to see the paid products returning. We're starting to see studios like PlayStation back out of their live service and try and go back into the single player side of things, because that works for them every time. So honestly, yeah, you know, as somebody who has released a video game which didn't perform too well either, and has made similar mistakes such as chasing something that already exists, my advice would be just quit while you're ahead. Don't waste more money. I came out of the end of making my game with 4 years of my life essentially lost, and 3,000 or 4,000 GBP of my own money gone. I would just advise to stop. Don't make the same mistake as many other devs have done. Go and make a smaller project. Go and make something you guys can actually handle. Go and make something that's unique. Yes, you're going to make a small project, maybe something that can be made in 6 to 12 months. It's not going to break records. It's not going to top the charts and make you millionaires, but it might make you enough to survive while being game developers. Whereas this is only going to drain your bank accounts and ultimately die within a few months. So yeah, wish you the best of luck. Hope you take on board all the feedback if any of the devs are watching this. And once again, this isn't to take away from any of the skills you have, any of the time you've put in. This is just probably solid and needed advice for you guys. So yeah, there's no shame in quitting while you're ahead. Alright, see ya.